That was the Prime Minister there, just wrapping up a 40-minute speech where he addressed the country on the big decision by the government to get rid of 370 and to get rid of statehood for Jammu and Kashmir. And he made a number of points explaining and justifying why this had to be done. He said this was a historic decision taken by his government. He said that Article 370 had placed many obstacles in the path of trying to bring vikas or development to Jammu and Kashmir, or fighting the scourge of terrorism. He said that that's why this had to go. He said that there have been close to over 40,000 deaths in the militancy since it started, and that's all the reasons why that this had to go. He also listed a series of government schemes and benefits which he said were held up because of this obstacle of 370, which will now extend to Jammu and Kashmir. He also addressed the fact, somewhat indirectly, that there is, of course, as we know, a sort of a lockdown state in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in the Kashmir Valley. And he said that people are suffering there, but he said that they understand the suffering, they're cooperating because they know this is for the good. He also wished them for Eid and said that the government will make attempts to try and ensure that Eid goes off peacefully. There's actually much more. We'll get into that. We have a panel here with us. I'm going to try to see if we can also go across to my colleague Nazir Masoodi, who is in Srinagar, and we will come to him in a second. But first, let me just go straight across to Aarti Jarat, who's part of our panel here tonight. And Aarti, just first thoughts on the speech.
Well, firstly, I don't know whether the people in Kashmir were able to hear his speech. So,
yes,
frankly, I don't think he was addressing the people of Kashmir.
Right.
In
well,
fact,
Jammu perhaps is
Jammu
connectivity, and Ladakh also better connectivity.
Yeah,
Valley connectivity is patchy.
Yeah.
But maybe
but
they
I
made
think
an exception here. Possibility.
We
Possible.
don't know.
But
We
you
don't
know,
know.
if
We'll
you-
find out.
But you know, if you look at the essence of his speech, frankly, I think he was reaching out to the rest of the country, because he's talking about appealing to everybody to participate in this whole project of developing Jammu and Kashmir
Right.
and freeing it from the scourge of militancy and separatism.
Right.
So I think basically, you know, look, he obviously needs to get money into Jammu and Kashmir
Yes.
to set up all those projects, and you know, the metro and
Right.
solar energy and
Yes.
medicinal plants that he talked about in Ladakh, and you know, so on and so forth. That has to come from private investment. He also made an appeal to Bollywood, to the Tamil film industry, to the Telugu film industry,
Right.
to come and shoot there. He's talking about making it into a major tourist destination. So please, people of India, go to Kashmir and, you know, sort of give it. So I think it was basically an appeal to the rest of the country
Right.
to invest.
That's an interesting point.
To invest in Jammu and Kashmir,
Yeah.
so that the state can prosper and people can benefit.
Right, you're right.
Now,
It was,
I
in a
don't-
sense, an address almost as much, if not more, to the rest of India, not so much to Jammu and Kashmir. I know everyone wants to come in. Let me just go first straight across to Nazir Masoodi and begin by asking you, Nazir Masoodi, joining us from Srinagar, the first sort of obvious question, that how many people do you think, from your understanding, particularly in the Kashmir Valley, would have been able to watch the speech?
I think people were waiting, everyone was waiting to listen to Prime Minister Modi today. What he will say
Yes.
about, you know, this scrapping 370, transforming Jammu and Kashmir state into a union territory. Now
Right.
he is promising
Right.
assembly election. That would be the way we see in the assembly election. But what Prime Minister started, when he started address, he talked about how 370 was an impediment in the development of
Right.
Jammu and
Nazir,
Kashmir. Then
Nazir,
why
before that-
people are so... Yeah.
Nazir, sorry, I'm just interrupting first. Just get an answer to the practical question as to what is the state of television connectivity in the valley. Would it have been enough for people to watch the speech, or is the connectivity not fully up?
As well as radio.
Well, I think most of the people must have watched this, this speech.
Okay.
Number one, on the radio. Number two, while the cable network is shut in many areas, but most of the people in Kashmir have dish, DTH with them.
Right.
So,
they would have seen it
if
through
you
that.
see, because in Kashmir there's in contrary to the perception, average household asset value in Kashmir is much higher than the rest of the country.
We're going to get into some numbers soon. We're going to get into those numbers soon, but I want to quickly get from you your take on how you think this speech would have been received, because as some of us were saying here, the speech seemed to almost be addressed to the rest of India as well, to sort of explain to them what the Prime Minister was doing and to bring them on board this project. Now that 370 is gone, now that statehood is gone.
Well,
how do you think this is going to go down?
Well, when people talk about 370, it's not just a provision of the constitution. For the people, it stands for their development, their progress, their education, their employment. I'll tell you how. It is because of 370 and J&K's own constitution, big landed, states abolition act 1950 was enacted in Jammu and Kashmir, which was not done anywhere in the country. That was first thing, and every individual got the land.
Okay,
this is
so
the only place in the country where no one is without a shelter or goes bad without food.
Okay.
It is because everybody is an owner of piece of land
Okay,
and the
so you're
house
saying,
in Jammu and Kashmir, and
right,
it is because of 370.
Okay, you're saying so there is a kind of emotive connect to 370. Nazir Musuri, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's go straight across now to Nalini Singh. Just to tell we got a terrific panel, but just to tell you that the Prime Minister did go on for fairly long, so we'll have very little time to analyze this, at least for this hour. We'll of course continue to take it apart in successive shows, but at least on this show. Nalini Singh, yes,
so,
go ahead.
So very quickly,
yes,
I think that it was not a speech which was profoundly overwhelming.
Okay.
And he's the Prime Minister, so I'm just saying it like that. But I would say that I rarely disagree with Aarti, but today I will, because I think that this speech was really for local, because the rest of the country is with him and he knows it, that the rest of the country is with him. So it was absolutely for local and paradoxically for international opinion that's building against the way things are going on over there, which was to say that we are going to have more democracy and more transparency, which was denied to the people. And the second thing that impressed me was that he said that this is maybe not a forever, not a permanent organization of the state, that we will, and then he said there will be chief minister, there will be a cabinet,
it's a temporary stripping of statehood. If things improve,
yeah, but
then you could go back to being a state. That's something that was said in Parliament as well, which he repeated.
Yeah, but I think that the other paradox is that he did not mention the word union territory, unless I missed it. So
I don't think I heard that. Did anybody hear him say mention
people
union
over
territory?
there
No.
would be very
Maybe the
interested to
Hindi
know.
word for it.
Perhaps he may have.
People over there, I'm sorry, I did not pick it up,
Yeah.
but people over there would be very interested to know what the implications of this are. And lastly, I'll just say that if we are going to be in this situation where he is actually also
Yes.
praising the local police, the local heroism
Yes.
of the people who have gone before. Now, so then what was really wrong? Only 3 families were wrong.
That's
so
right.
for them, they have abrogated and repealed 370. So I think that also is something.
Is something
which
that was
people will
interesting.
think.
That was the political part of his speech, where he said that there are these families. I think he was referring Shahzan Farasat obviously to the Abdullah family, the Mufti Muhammad Said family, and presumably the Nehru Gandhi family, who've been held back. What would you say quickly before I go to the political panel? Would you make of this? Because at one level there was something surreal about this, because the valley does remain in lockdown, people do not have communication, and you're sort of making the speech to whom, and there was a kind of expectation that would he reach out, would there be a healing touch saying, listen, we've gone through all this,
It was not meant to be.
and how and to sort of address the pain of the past 72 hours. Did you feel that was addressed at all?
That address maybe came right towards the end when he was talking about festival, etc.
Right.
But I found the speech to be essentially anti-federal. And why I say that is he made 2 points. One is Article 370 removal and making from a state to UT will make it a better administered territory. Now, those 2 points are effectively fundamentally against everything our constitution stands for, because we believe that states are a better mechanism of administration. Otherwise, we will be a federation of union territories. Why have states at all?
Right.
So, I think although he tried to make it a promising speech, in terms of ground realities and how a constitution and an administration has functioned for 70 years, not just in Jammu and Kashmir, but across the country, there are major contradictions.
Okay, let me go to Shaina NC, BJP, joining us from Mumbai. Shaina NC, you want to respond to that? The fact that the Prime Minister made it seem that unless you have a very strong central monitoring, overseeing of states in this union territory model, states can't function. Does that seem anti-federal?
No, I completely disagree. First and foremost, what has the Prime Minister said? He said that we want to assimilate and make sure Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh are in the mainstream. He's talked about IITs and IIMs as educational institutes.
Sure.
He's talked about reducing the revenue deficit and saying that yes, we will ensure that at the earliest, the tourism that we keep talking about and harping about,
Yes.
it should not be limited just to visitors from India, but all over the globe. So I think all these are huge takeaways. When he says that there will be free and fair elections,
Yes.
I think that this is not just some kind of a lollipop. We must understand that in the times to come, what do the people of Jammu and Kashmir want? They want their economy to flourish. They want stability, safety, security, and more
also
importantly,
autonomy.
the Prime Minister has never let down anyone. The unity with which the entire country has come together today is
Yeah.
only testimony to the fact
But I
that
want to ask-
terrorists or terrorism
Right.
will be put to bay by the sheer people power.
But I want
so
to
I
ask-
think that is the largest takeaway today.
Right. Let me get Sanjeev Tiwari actually to respond to that. That when he spoke about all of this, when he spoke about economy, when he spoke of industry, tourism, all of that, what was the problem earlier when he spoke of free and fair elections? It's not as if Jammu and Kashmir has not had free and fair elections. We've had a free and fair election, and the BJP was part of a coalition government for a year and a half with the PDP in Jammu and Kashmir.
Of course.
Right? And as far as the economic indicators are concerned, and there's been a lot of talk about this. In fact, let's put those graphics up on the screen. If you look at the numbers, Jammu and Kashmir actually is already doing much better on a number of social and economic indicators. The poverty rate in Jammu and Kashmir is better than the national average. It's 22% for India, it's 10% for J&K. Human Development Index, J&K scores better than the national average. Infant mortality better, fertility rate better. So it's actually higher in many regards. It's only probably state GDP and per capita where it's lower, but it's actually better than some of the Hindi belt states, including those run by the BJP.
The crux of the entire speech which I heard
Yes.
is three things. First is the Kashmiriyat, the second is the Insaniyat, and the third is the Jamhuriyat. When we talk about the Jamhuriyat, then it means democracy. You don't go to 2014 or 15, you go back to last 65 years. When you go back to the 65 years, then
Yes.
you find
Yes.
that the basic genesis of the entire terrorism is basically the denial of the Jamhuriyat to the people of the Jammu and Kashmir. You have
That
heard,
was the
you have
1987
heard,
election.
Yeah, you have
Since
heard.
subsequently there have been a number of free and fair elections. Are you saying the election
If
which
you'll
just
go
took
back to
place
last
in
30
20,
years,
what was
I'm
it,
talking about
2017
that.
assembly elections?
If we'll
Was
go
that-
back,
that was not free
if
and
we'll
fair?
go back to last 30 years, then
Yeah.
there are 6 times for the longer period or for the shorter period, the precedent rules had been imposed. And because of one reason,
How is that going to change by becoming a
number
union
one,
territory?
number one.
No, I'm saying, I'm genuinely asking a question.
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask
I'm
Desat
I'm
Nigam
coming to that.
because he's not had a chance
I have
to speak
given,
and we're
I
running
have
out
given
of
3
time.
things. I would like to complete 3 things.
No, we don't have
Small,
time for
30
3 things.
seconds
We have
only.
time for quick interjections. I
Yeah.
did warn everybody about that, but that's because the Prime Minister spoke for a long time. How is becoming a union territory going to fix, for example, he mentioned President's rule, or the fact that the Prime Minister keeps talking of these 3 families? If tomorrow there is elections like a union territory, like we have in Delhi or whatever, it could still be members of these families that win. So you could still have Omar Abdullah as Chief Minister, or Mufti Muhammad, I beg your pardon, Mehbooba Mufti as Chief Minister. So,
let us
so
be
how does this change any of that?
Let us be very, very clear.
Yes.
When these political dynastic parties boycott panchayat elections but contest only Lok Sabha elections, you come to note that they are not interested in grassroots democracy taking shape.
Do they boycott panchayat elections across the board? I don't know if they do that across the board.
Yeah, of course.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Answer,
Yes.
I think there is
Yes.
on
and
that. I
National
think the
Conference.
Union of India has a lot to answer.
Let me, I think I was
Okay.
completing my
All right.
Complete your
point.
point.
Okay.
So that's a kind of narrative they were trying to build. For their own interest, they'll contest Lok Sabha, but they won't allow grassroots democracy to take shape out there. So they boycott panchayat elections. So the counter reaction was that there was 75% actual polling in the panchayat elections, and the new leadership that is coming up from there. That is what Prime Minister was talking about.
How does becoming how does scrapping statehood
I'll tell you how. Because
impact
they were the ones who were running the state, and they were the ones who
But
did
they
not
will-
want democracy to be
But will
established.
they not continue to run the state if they win the elections?
Let me tell
They
you
will run
again,
the state.
that is
while they were running the state.
let me tell you,
Didn't the 75%
they
turnout happen
boycotted.
under their
They
rule?
boycotted.
They may have
Srinivasan-
boycotted, but I'm
See.
still not clear how scrapping state, I mean, how that justifies
Remain
scrapping
here.
statehood and scrapping
Give me
370.
5
I'm not
minutes.
an advocate for scrapping
Yeah,
statehood, but how does that change anything?
I'm coming
Yes.
to that.
It will.
Basically, Article 370 and 35A, particularly Article 370,
Yes.
was an instrument in the hands of the people who were ruling the Jammu and Kashmir state.
Yes.
And it was an instrument for the repressive, constitution in the entire Jammu and Kashmir. They could yeah, of course.
No,
of
that's
course.
completely without.
See,
I mean, I don't
the
understand.
130
We have
progressive
such little time,
laws,
and I
the
can see we're getting into a proper
130
debate.
progressive laws which
Yes.
were passed by the parliament, they were not applicable
Every
to the Jammu and
provision of the
Kashmir.
Indian constitution
Because-
has already
because
been
RTI
extended to the state of Jammu
right
and
to
Kashmir
education.
through Article 370 effectively. In fact, the biggest land reform has happened under the special provisions. That's why when you said the poverty numbers are so low, that's because they have had the best land reform in the history of this country.
It does
And
not have
that's-
CAG audit,
No.
which is one of the important
and it has a
reasons
lot
for
of other
corruption.
things
fine.
in it. So we
That's-
can weigh those pros and cons, but
That's
it's not
separate.
That's what has been
That's
weighed.
separate.
But
I'm sorry,
despite Article
what
370,
about,
Arti jo issue is that,
what
despite
are you going
Article
to
370,
do, what are you going to do
what happened in
about the
last 70
hundreds and
years?
thousands of troops that are stationed in the valley, and how are you going to give people freedom, the freedom that they are guaranteed under the Constitution of India, as long as you have that
The
level
simple
of
question is,
security
I just want to
in the
ask Shaina,
valley?
okay, last,
How?
because I literally, Shaina's not had a time to come in. The simple question, Shaina, is if this was such an amazing step that is being taken, why is the valley still under lockdown? Monday the announcement is made, today we're on Thursday, why is it on lockdown? Why are political leaders of the state in jail?
Look, I don't want to answer this in some kind of a sensational way, but please understand this is a very bold decision. And obviously, safety security is of utmost concern for one and all. You had Mr. Doval yesterday,
Yes.
the NSA chief, not just interacting with locals in Shopian, but also with the police, ensuring
not-
that they are also
if Mr.
part
Doval is
of
free
this
to wander
entire
around,
decision of the government.
if Mr. Doval is free
one
to
minute,
wander around, why not lift
it
restrictions on everyone else?
If it takes, look, the lives of everyone at stake, if there is any untoward incident, should we not be having a precautionary measure? And this is a fight against terrorists. This is a fight also for India's sovereignty, for one nation, one country, for which
Okay.
people like Shama Prasad Mukherjee gave their lives.
ideological
For
right.
years and years, you
So
have
hold
had
on.
leader after leader only
go
pay lip
after the
service
terrorists.
and not have the courage of conviction
go-
or the political
so go
will.
after the
Here, Prime
terrorists.
Minister Modi has said that he will make sure that there is an assimilation of every segment of society without any discrimination.
But say to
all
whom?
these are the takeaways. I
Okay.
don't understand what this hue and cry is. And as far as Mr. Farooq Abdullah is concerned, the clarification Mr. Amit Shah gave in
Not
Parliament
Farooq Abdullah,
itself.
there are 300 people in jail, close to 300 people in jail, which includes political leaders, which includes stakeholders across the board. So, I mean, when you say
As
hue and
far
cry,
as the
if you were to
unity of
shut
this
down
country
Maharashtra
goes
where
and
you
the
are,
safety
cut off
security of the
internet,
citizen of Jammu,
cut
Kashmir
off
and Ladakh,
cut off
that
cable,
has
restrict
to be
movement,
taken
you would make a
in-
hue and cry, no?
You cannot compare Maharashtra to Jammu Kashmir. I think
No, but
this
I'm
is
saying
a futile debate,
snatching.
frankly.
No, but hold on. You're snatching away people's this is now been day 4, where these people have had no access to information. They have no access to hospitals. They're struggling to get around. So there is a reason
Look-
why you would understand why they'd be agitated. That's all.
Who-
Anyway, we're out of time.